Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's begin. Hi, Praveen. Yeah. Somebody has to take the initiative of getting the ball rolling. I'm not going to do that.
Maybe you can help me a little bit because I'm still trying to figure out what the difference between A and B is. A
What's
school whose students are subject to examinations designed by the school board it comes under,
uh-huh.
or an affiliated college whose students are subject to the examinations designed by the board of the university it
Okay.
comes under. What's the
Yeah, yeah.
difference between these two?
In India, there are these courses run by universities and courses done by affiliated colleges. Colleges that are affiliated to university, but there the faculty doesn't have freedom to design their own exams. Exams are designed by the university faculty. Um, so essentially, the learning that takes place in these affiliated colleges would be determined by the exams designed by the university faculty. There's a kind of caste hierarchy. People in universities are also paid better, whereas in affiliated colleges they're not. And more and more, I think appointments in universities require things like PhDs and so on. But in affiliated colleges, you just have a master's degree and you get appointed.
Okay,
That's
so
yeah.
so the difference you are trying to get us to think about is quality, not layers.
Actually, quality would depend upon the faculty as well. By and large, I think
Exactly.
you can say that the university faculty would be better equipped for teaching and research than affiliated college faculty.
So if we abstract from the realities that you're talking
Mm.
about, it
Uh,
seems to me that you are saying that you have two groups of examiners. One of
uh,
them is better qualified than the other. And which
no,
one is better?
not two groups of examiners. Just examiners are only the university faculty. Affiliated faculty cannot design their own final examinations.
So you are talking about layers. So
Yeah,
you're talking about whether or not the examination is external to the
yeah,
teachers
yeah,
or the examination is internal to
yeah,
the teachers.
yeah. So if for example, if I were to teach a course in linguistics, prescribed course in linguistics in an affiliated college, I have no control over the exams. I'll have to teach my students what the university faculty, wants. But if I'm teaching in a university, then I can design an exam that is suitable for my course. So the university faculty have much more freedom in principle, but they just do the same thing all over. They give exams that they're used to from their teachers and so on. So there is a kind of tradition of asking questions.
Well, if we put aside the problem of these traditions, just
Mm,
so that we can talk really about the difference in the system rather than the
mm,
difference in the quality of the people participating in the system,
huh.
that that becomes more meaningful, right? Because
Yes.
and if we look at that, then it depends on the value system that we wish to subscribe to. So if I were the state, so l'état-c'est-moi, so if I were the state, then I want to have, certain kinds of control by making sure that all my students at a certain level are vocationally trained to
Yeah.
my standards. And I can even allow some kinds of freedom, like saying, the schools can take whatever textbooks they want. Producers of textbook can help produce different kinds of stuff. The schools can choose, and
Yeah.
and here is the real exam. It is external to your system. You don't know where it comes from. Now, this would be possibly a good system because it still requires um, teachers to
Yeah.
imagine real education rather than
Yeah.
confined curricula.
Yeah. Yeah. That is true. So if I were the person who is completely in charge of the some particular university in India, let's say the Kerala University, which is in the one that Kerala University, this is in Trivandrum, where I am right now. And like a dictator, I designed the entire examination system, there'll be political complications in the sense the entire faculty would strike because they would say this is, not acceptable to us, because they would know how to teach according to that. However, if I give them sufficient help and say, if you teach it in such a way that you can help students pass those exams, you will get a pay rise and promotion. And if I give them sufficient attraction, then the education system would change.
So, Momo,
Yeah.
no, please, Liam, please. You were saying something. I interrupted.
No, please go ahead. I was just trying to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, right. Mo, they don't need to do anything. These schools already exist. They're called dummy schools. The only thing that happens in these schools in India is that they don't focus on this alternate strand that you're talking about. Whether it's in Hyderabad, whether it's in Kota and Rajasthan, they all focus on entrance exams. The students just need to come, give the exams, the 10th or the 12th, 10th grade, 12th grade, whatever we call, and they get passed. I mean, the students will pass. So, developing an alternate strand is always possible. You will always have, you just need to do, you need to paint the walls white. There are some stupid regulations that these people have. The walls need to be painted white, the class needs to be this big, etc. As long as you do that and your students pass, it's pretty easy. If we can do it for passing entrance exams, then it's absolutely possible to do this for the alternate strand that you're talking about of creating a rational. Now, the question then would be, which parent in India will send their students to such a school?
When you say such a school, you mean the teaching factory, one that is supported by a teaching factory?
No, the one that you would design, which talks of critical thinking, inquiry-oriented learning, etc., etc. Because there are parents who would not want their children to go to such schools because they know that if their children take 15 years to pass so-called 12 years or 10 years, that's a loss for them. The fact that they would end up learning is of no consequence to them.
No, they if they are given grades exactly the way they are given grades now, and there is competition, and only those people who do well in those examinations will be, going to IITs and IIMs and ISERs, then the parents don't care what people learn. They just want their children to do well in the exam so that they can go to the next stage. So you can give an exam in telephone directory memorizing. Do they care? No. So as long as that condition is met, but that should be determined by whoever is in power. So let me give you a concrete example. When we set up the linguistics department program, the linguistics undergraduate program in NUS, we decided that it was going to be open book exams. Number one. Number two, it would not test content knowledge, it would test inquiry abilities. And we designed the exam in that way. And we announced this is what we're going to do. And students want to do well in all exams. So initially, when they took our quizzes, they did very badly. Almost all of them flunked. So we said, we will help you to do well in our exams. And the students were cooperative. They learned how to engage in inquiry. And of course, once they started doing that, they also started enjoying it, and they started doing it without the exams. So there has to be some kind of reward and punishment system initially.
So Mo, I understand that in your imagination, it will be something like this, right? If the entrance exams, which are externally set, examine important things, then people will learn important things.
Yeah. But they need help though.
I'm not so sure about that. Let's say even if we allow help and give help and so on, this idea is not new. It has been tried. The problem, I believe, is scale. So the SAT and the GREs were originally intended to do that. But when they scale to a nationwide scale, then it doesn't work.
Okay, you're saying scale is going to be a problem because we need the people who look at the examination scripts and grade. It has to be computer gradable exams.
Or something like that. The moment you scale, there are so many things that will make it hard to work, including commercial interests, including the large number of students who now suddenly become geniuses because they will game the system. GRE and SAT failed partially. They failed most obviously, when China and India come into play.
Yeah.
And take those exams and score them.
This was one of the reasons why when I was at Stanford, there were people arguing that GRE should be scrapped because they do not indicate any research ability. The kids did extremely well during the first year, and then they collapsed. So that is true. But if I were to design a GRE and SAT or IIT entrance examinations, this is the way I would do it. I would create some questions which are extremely challenging and some questions which are, quite easy. And so there'll be different levels of questions. And so that I would be able to select, let's say, about 10% of the population or 5% of the population, exactly the way it is done now, essentially for selection. I have tried it out, the computer gradable questions, what we call the enhanced MCQ questions, where you get some information, let's say half a page or one page information, and you were given in your own exams in Singapore. That's what we did, except they were not computer graded because small number of students, you don't need that, 20, 30 students. But for larger numbers, we did that. And there'd be 10, 15 or 20 options. In order to get full marks, you have to tick not just one correct answer, but many. And students would not be told how many. It could be 5, it could be 6, it could be 10. And if you click inappropriate options, marks would be deducted. If you do that, the so-called MCQs, enhanced MCQs, become almost equivalent to open-ended questions.
I totally agree with that. In fact, I did that when I was teaching in NUS also. This was like 22 years ago. Enhanced MCQ questions, because I was teaching a class that's 250 strong.
Okay. Then there is no other way. Yeah.
And there was no other way. So I can understand that it works. But what I'm going to suggest now is that you seem to already have a preference to the answers. You prefer to have a system, to have a large system overriding the imbecility of lower faculty members.
Yes.
I am going to suggest otherwise, that we need a kind of democracy in academia, a kind of faith that teachers will also be people who continue to improve and learn. No one dictates. And because every faculty is going to try to teach the best students. So essentially, I'm preaching anarchism.
Yeah.
Democracy
is anarchy, actually. Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to preach a kind of anarchic examination system. Let every professor do what they want, but also let every student choose what they want to take. The ultimate exam is, do they get a job? Do they get to live the lives they want? So we already have a society do this for us. We don't need another entrance exam. Of course, this is probably too idealistic. But isn't this also what is really happening when corporate measures come to universities and says, give us KPIs, and then they pretend that they want employability, student average salary. We don't even need that, really. That's what they're doing. We can scrape that and go back.
I agree with you, provided So, for example, this system is not needed in a place like MIT or Stanford, where teachers have total freedom, nobody asks them questions. But notice that this is not the case in Singapore. There is some higher ups would monitor the exams and so on. And even in Singapore, it is not as bad as it is in India, where if you allowed democracy requires people who can work in democracy and are interested in student learning. Given the Indian system where there is so much of corruption and incompetence, you need the opposite case, non-democracy. If you're suggesting radical changes, I would say scrap the entire exam systems. The job of a university teacher or any teacher is to allow students to learn. Why should we assess them for somebody else? So if the people who want to select students want to select the best, let them design their whatever system. So if I teach a course, let us say in mathematics, how can that be used for entrance examination for medicine? I don't know what the requirements are. Or for finance, I don't know what the requirements are. So the best system is, in that case, the radical system would be university professors simply allow students to learn. They do not give exams. That will be even better. Then, of course, then you will be measuring the nature of learning on the basis of how students do, how well they do 10 years after the exams. So a classic case would be this mathematician in Texas, Moore. It's called Moore's method. And he came to the classroom. He taught only graduate students. He came to the classroom, threw a problem at the students, and walked off. And the students were supposed to work together, come up with a solution. He would discuss the solutions with them. And then he would throw another problem at them. Half the students became outstanding mathematicians. So if you take the field medalists and so on, they are either his students or his students' students or students' students. So the method worked beautifully. No exams needed, only learning. And that was a case in ancient India, actually. Who needed exams?
And Mo, just for my understanding, again, I'm going to just go to your email, and your email says, how can that school/affiliated college develop a strand of education to achieve that goal? Now, I don't know about the affiliated college, but schools, yes, to a certain extent, I do. If we say how, then it is eminently possible. Because if we can do this, where there is a dummy school that trains people for entrance exams, there can be schools that can train them for a strand of education that achieves this goal that you're setting out. It can be done. They will still maintain their affiliation. Ultimately, that's what counts for schools. The fees, the people coming in, etc. But
hold on, I don't really understand what your idea is. Suppose
I'll just finish the question. So are we talking about how they will do this, or are we talking about what they will do as this strand of education, while still remaining under the umbrella of this affiliation, such as CBSE, ICSE, IGCSE, etc.
Yeah. Okay. Suppose CBSE exams are completely revamped, which that may not be a good idea, but at least one course in CBSE is revamped such that it's a compulsory course, but it tests inquiry abilities and critical thinking, right? And the school has a responsibility to train students to do well in that exam as well. And your question that you're raising is, how will the school prepare students for that difficult exam? And your suggestion is, let the coaching factories do it. Is that what you're suggesting?
No, what I'm saying is this: whatever critical thinking, whatever is the strand, whatever are the important things, the school can go ahead and develop a curriculum and still have the students appear for the CBSE exams, right? Um, and the students may or may not pass, that's a different story.
Mm.
How of it is already in place for the the dummy schools that exist for these entrance exams are doing it, but for a different goal. So when you say your goal, that the how of it is already, it's already apparent. There are 100, maybe even 1,000 schools in India that do this. The how of it.
When you say dummy school, you're saying no, the school teachers do not do any teaching, they leave it to the outsourced agencies. Is that what you mean? Dummy school.
No,
Then
dummy schools are schools that exist in India, including schools in Kota, in Hyderabad. There is Sri Chaitanya, where the students come and prepare for the entrance exams. The
so they're
teachers
not,
teach them about the entrance. They have a totally different curriculum
Yeah.
altogether, which is different from CBSE. The students can walk in, walk out,
Yeah.
but they need to be there. But they just appear for the what the final exam, the
Yeah.
board exams, etc. But the how is already there. The
Okay.
same model can be used. Is
So-
what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
let me make sure I understand you. By dummy school, you mean these coaching factories in Kota, where actual teaching takes place. The
It's
teachers
not
teach
only
students to do well in exams.
it's not only in Kota. I can send you a list where of it's in Hyderabad, it's in Bangalore, it's
Yeah.
in Dehradun. There are hundreds and hundreds of places in India.
A system in which teachers teach what is relevant for exams and nothing more. They don't bother about the syllabus. They don't bother about textbooks. They teach students how to do well in exams.
In
Yes.
exams, entrance exams,
Ah,
Can I
only entrance exams.
yeah.
can I
Okay.
just try rephrasing what Mahesh is saying? So, Mo, I think what Mahesh is trying to say is that there is a existing system in which there is a board exam and so on.
Yeah.
And there are people who are not so interested in the board exam. What they are interested is in a parallel stream of education. In this case, it's the entrance exams.
Yeah.
Supposing
Okay.
my aim is I don't care about the board exam, I
Yeah.
care about getting into IIT. So I
Yeah.
can join a school which doesn't care about the board exam. They ensure that you minimally pass there. But
Yeah.
what you really care about is getting into IIT.
Yeah.
We can have a similar strand where I am not interested in the board exam. I am only interested in inquiry and critical thinking. So we develop a strand in which that is focused on. So just like here, you're focusing on the IIT education. There is already a system in place in which IIT education can be what do you call it, prioritized, right? So similarly, you can create a similar system where you fulfill the minimum requirements as a school such that you are accepted by the board. But what you're teaching has nothing to do with the board exam. It is in and critical thinking.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean, Mahesh? Just to clarify.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So the question would be, suppose now to use autocratic means, I design all the entrance examinations for IIT. Okay. And then you're saying these coaching factories will do the rest.
No, so probably you don't even need the powers of autocracy because you will never get it. I think what is happening here is if you have, even in the normal circumstances that we have, if we have enough incentivization, then people will pick another strand of education, as is evidenced by the existence of these cram schools coaching exams. However, maybe we are not just providing enough incentivization for parents to try the critical thinking type of curriculum that you are proposing.
No, but if IIT entrance examinations were to test critical thinking, parents would want that.
Yeah.
Won't they?
Yeah, that is
Because
it. So
parents want to
That would
train
be
their
the
students right from
incentive.
grade 1 to get into IIT.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Praveen,
Yeah. So as
So that
Saransh is
would
saying,
be-
the incentive would still be getting into IIT and not critical thinking.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do
You have to
need
be-
some
you have to be-
incentivization.
We have to be clear about what is it that we think the students would want to run after, or the parents would
Yeah.
want to want their kids to chase.
So that would be the intent. Definitely, you're absolutely right. for parents and also students who are not used to it, the incentive is doing well in the exam such that they get into IIT or whatever things of their choice. It may not be IIT, it could be, medical schools, whatever. And if those gates are carefully controlled, then the students would want to learn that. The next question would be, the coaching factories of the kind that Mahesh is talking about, they are perfectly capable of teaching students how to do in exams in the standard examination. Will these coaching factories be able to cope with the kinds of exams that I set? They will have to learn first.
Yeah, they will need people with those sets of skills. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So initially, it is going to be extremely hard, but of course, if that is what is needed for coaching factory, people are paid extremely well. So if you say, here, we'll pay you 10 times the salary of regular teachers, people would learn how to do it.
Yeah,
So
I don't think he meant that the same people would do it.
No, yeah.
But like similar to these systems, we would also have systems where supposing a bunch of us become facilitators and we start these coaching centers for inquiry and critical thinking. That is the kind of thing he means. So I don't think he means the existing thing can be used, but just the existing idea of there being a parallel setup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There'll
So
be a different breed of teachers then.
Yeah. So there has to be alignment between what is, demand and, what is in demand. So because you mentioned that, then they would want to learn that. But I think they wouldn't want to learn that. They would still, their thing is that they want to get into IIT. And they do what it takes to get to IIT and does not have anything to do with learning still. So we need to create an incentive for them to want to learn that.
Yeah.
Such that it impacts their existing framework of, how their life goes.
Ideally, learning should be internally motivated. That is, students would want to learn for its own sake. But unfortunately, we have a culture in which that is not the case. The only reason is external motivation, money, power, whatever it is, other than learning. But then once you set it up in such a way that at least some students would find joy in learning that, perhaps we can change the culture itself.
So again, talking only about the schools. Sorry, someone was saying something. Siley, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying. So I feel there are two things about this. One is if we keep the IIT exams aside for a while and just look at the 10th grade board exams. So we are assuming that if we teach students inquiry and critical thinking, if we develop those abilities, they may not translate into them writing good board exams. So we are thinking that these are two completely different sets. So is that assumption, does that assumption hold is one thing. The other thing is there are schools who take the liberty because finally the external paper is only going to come at the 10th grade level. So from 1st grade to 9th grade, people are free to set their own exams generally for all the boards. So in that case, some schools can take that sort of liberty to teach inquiry and critical thinking in those years. And then after the 9th grade, maybe slowly start preparing students for the final exam, the 10th grade exams.
That is what I thought is possible, but school teachers tell me that is no longer the case because CBSE has exams before 10th that students have to get through. So it's not as simple as, things are getting more and more complicated. I don't exactly know what's going on for this. For that discussion, we need a teacher in a CBSE system, a teacher who really wants to help students learn inquiry and critical thinking and yet cannot because of the exam system. Avinash. Avinash's hand has been up for some time. And then Saransh.
Yeah.
Okay, Avinash went away. I was thinking about this. Even if we think that the people are only engaging in critical thinking in the critical thinking curriculum just to get into IIT, but still, once they start doing it in the +2 preparation, they will start liking it, and perhaps just exposure to it, even through an external motivator, would develop some kind of internal motivation. Because in my experience, I myself am a product of the cram school because I wanted to get into IITs and IISERs. And even there, I mean, even though all of my peers, the main goal was to get into an IIT or an IISER and score higher marks, but because you are studying science and you're studying math and all of these other logical problems, you also develop some intrinsic motivation for it. And you do develop some of the joy of problem solving in science. And I think something similar can happen for critical thinking as well.
Yeah, that will happen.
So more.
Yeah.
So just to take this and situate it realistically, right? We'll take only school students because school children, because that's what I know about. They have zero agency in which school they get into. Starting from when I was young, when dinosaurs walked the earth, from that time to now, they have zero agency in which school they get into. So if we want to make a start from somewhere, one simple thing is find 30 parents who have A, money, B, power, who don't care about the IITs and the needs of the world because there is something else waiting for the children, or they can afford that the children can listen. Find 30 such people and start, and that is a how. Because they don't need to be affiliated to, and then the curriculum could be. The only thing is we need to convince these parents. See, risk appetite should be minimal in the sense because there is backup. Ultimately, reality comes down to risk appetite.
Actually, let me make a less radical suggestion. It is not necessary that the school should be completely revamping the curriculum. All that the school needs is a dual curriculum, one curriculum to help students pass the exam, and another curriculum to help students learn something valuable. This is what actually I was suggesting to one of the schools in Pune, and they're happy to do that. So they have a kind of optional program that begins at the 6th grade and goes on to 7th grade and so on. And for the kids who are interested in. And there is sufficient demand for that from students and also a subset of parents. So as long as you make that, or as long as you guarantee doing well in exams, and then say, look, after the exams in their life, this course is going to be of value. Of course, you will also need to talk to the parents. I did that when I started interacting with the school in Pune. There was a parents' meeting, and they were all kind of middle class, upper middle class parents. And my having appropriate uniforms and badges like MIT and Stanford helped. And the parents were convinced because of the badges, and the parents were in full support. So it is possible to do that if you have a dual curriculum and you can assign, let us say, how much time can you assign? It can be either 50-50 or it can be 80% for the CBSE exam and 10% for real learning. There are many, many ways of doing this. As long as you ensure that they do well in exams, parents don't mind additional stuff. In fact, they do send their kids for additional stuff, for things like music and dance and all that stuff, not tested in CBSE. And the motivation could be, of many different kinds.
Yes, I can vouch for that. For the last 8 years, we've been doing programs, and they've been sending they've been sending, including ICT, they've been sending. I mean, ICT is 4 years, but yeah, they have been sending. So yeah, there is evidence for that.
Yeah. There is also, in fact, another kind of market, namely parents who want their children not to pass the CBSE exam and the IIT entrance examinations and so on, but parents who want their children to go abroad. So if you say, I'll prepare your child to get into MIT or Stanford or Harvard or whatever the prestigious colleges, parents would pay you huge amounts. In fact, I was asked to do that, and I said that I don't have the time for that. There is a market for it, and there is a sense in which you can design such a program to help these kids learn something valuable. I said no to it because I didn't want. Most of these kids are kind of spoiled brats, and I didn't want to. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but this market already exists, and it is so huge. There are people I know people. I mean, there's a guy who sits out of Bombay who charges 1.5 lakhs for consulting for one and a half hours for building the portfolio, etc. All of this. It is in this career counselors, etc. And this market is insidious. It starts at 6th standard. That's when they start building up portfolios. I know this really well because I'm in 6th standard onwards. They start building up certificates. First thing, if they come to the thing, will I get a certificate?
Yeah.
Certificate after certificate after certificate. And then how many LinkedIn connections do you have? How many Instagram thing? All of this counts. This market is absolutely well established. But it talks about something else apart from what I think you are saying. It's about getting it there. It's another sort of JE racket.
Yeah.
Factory.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Can I what?
Yes, sir.
No, can you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what I was trying to intervene before was about why do you think the IITs want critical thinkers?
Good question.
No, really, I'm being serious about it. We are just assuming that IITs want critical thinkers. Given the way IITs have been functioning, whatever I know about IITs, they don't want critical thinkers. They just want people who will implement particular systems efficiently.
Yeah.
So they want to create technocrats, not thinkers.
Unfortunately, that is the case now, but that was not the case, let's say, 25 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but whatever my interaction with IITs has been, I don't really think they care for critical thinkers. Because they know what is going on with JE. They know about Quota Factory.
Yeah.
What have they done to change?
Yeah.
They are fine with it, I think.
No, but Quota Factory has been in place for eons. So
yes, that's what I'm saying.
So Professor Mohanan saying that maybe this was not the case 25 years ago. I would have to look at I will have to look at the question paper for JE 25 years.
I did that actually. This is the reason why I did it. See, I found when I was a graduate student at MIT, I found that the students from IIT found the course easygoing. I had a nervous breakdown. I couldn't cope with it. I couldn't even take undergraduate courses. Whereas these guys from IIT were kind of breezing it through. They already knew it. So I thought IITs are doing some excellent work. I mean, what is it about IIT teaching that, I didn't have that kind of education. I had crappy education. So the difference was very clear. And I started talking about what kind of courses they did, what their experience. So their learning experience was remarkable. Fantastic education. And then at that time, my question was, why are IITs producing these kids and sending them abroad? They did not want to stay in India. They wanted to be outside India and make lots of money and so on. And then I started seeing stupid people who had no interest in learning, no interest in reading, no interest in anything other than making pots of money. And they did not have the intellectual capacity. So initially I saw, random exceptions. Then it became more and more systematic. These were most of the products were, this was around 2000 or so, I think. And at that time, I saw this article by Vijay Sinha, an IIT professor, Kharagpur or something like that, about IIT education going down. And his main complaint was the exam system, the multiple choice questions. So I looked at the multiple choice questions. And I discovered, lo and behold, yes. So I asked the people who had done this stuff earlier, how, and there are many people who said, oh, actually, I didn't even answer all the questions. I just attempted 2 or 3. answer questions, and I thought I would flunk. And they were admitted, and they were surprised. So the examiners were actually looking for some spark, not what the kids didn't know, but what the kids were capable of. And I have friends in that group who were actually, people who sort of describe themselves as lazy bums. And they did extremely well. So there is a transition from before 2000 to after 2000. And I also found other articles of that kind saying the entrance examinations are destroying IIT education. And I myself wrote an article about that, how the entrance examinations are destroying. In fact, my reason for coming back to India was precisely to battle against IIT entrance exams. So I was promised assistance, but that didn't take place.
I understand. So, but I could be wrong, but I think we should make an important distinction here. We're talking about two things. One is the point of entry into the IITs. I was just yesterday, I was speaking to Professor Pankaj Seksaria from IIT Delhi, who runs this alternate education part of it, where there is Charka spinning, etc., as prospective faculty. They all agree, but the point of entry is something that the people who teach there don't seem to have control about.
Yeah.
In terms of, so the point of entry, how that happens is totally different from what is slightly different from what happens when you enter.
Yeah.
Now, what is the criteria for entry? I don't think I'm just sort of making a broad sort of sweeping assumption here. If we polled all the IIT professors here, I would assume that many of them many, if not most of them, would say that IIT JEE does not work, but they don't have that power.
Yeah.
So what is taught in IIT and how you get into IIT, I think are two different things.
Yeah.
Might be two different things.
Yeah. Yeah, what gets taught depends upon the faculty. They have the freedom to design any course they want. Sairansh had raised his hand at some point.
No, I think Mahesh covered my point. I wanted to respond to Avinash about, I don't think we need to be that cynical that the IITians and all the IITian professors are happy with the entrance exam. I don't think that is the case. They see it as a necessary evil. And I think I too haven't found a single IISER or IIT professor who would say that the entrance exam is good. They would want it to change, but they just can't.
Looks like
no. So I'm wondering about like what is the focus of the discussion, in the sense we can talk a lot about ideal circumstances and what an ideal world would be and where we would have all the power, but should it not be what can be done given that these are the constraints? So
thank you for raising that question, because the announcement for this discussion was the video in which we discussed some of the learning tasks that we have conducted actually, and we have been successful in doing that. So there is a way of designing learning tasks without exams and stuff like that, such that students learn what is of value. That was a point of sending that video around.
Purpose of education. Yeah, it was already there in the link.
Yeah, link was there. So that was a kind of illustration of the kinds of learning tasks that we can create. But we haven't actually discussed what kinds of learning tasks will give you the kinds of results that you're looking for. And not examination tasks, but learning tasks, shifting the whole attention from assessment to learning. So is it possible to teach, let us say, 8th grade students how to construct scientific theories? Yes, it is possible. Is it possible to teach 8th grade students construct ethical theories? Yes. Is it possible to teach them reasoning? Yes. Multiple types of reasoning? Yes. All these learning tasks can be designed. And if you can get a few students and a few teachers who are willing to implement it, yes, the students would learn. It's not impossible. And all of us have had that experience of teaching, going against the conventional types of learning and finding joy in that kind of learning. I mean, that helping students do that kind of learning.
So, one thing that I've in my work realized is that one is if we have the flexibility of doing certain units in a textbook and using inquiry as a pedagogy. I mean, that is not our aim, but I think schools are more open to that because they have this mandate of teaching science, they have this mandate of teaching math. So saying that, okay, let's identify certain units from the textbook, which we might be able to teach using inquiry as the pedagogy. And that could, sort of at least help us get a foot in the door. Because, I mean, I don't see many schools like Kaveri who might offer a separate, like a 2-hour period chunk per week for inquiry, focusing on just an inquiry program. But if we can sort of pitch it to them, saying that you are teaching what you are teaching, you are covering the syllabus as you want to, but in this way, that is something that they might resonate with. And also, not all topics. I mean, giving them the flexibility of using it for certain topics and saying, okay, for the lack of whatever time, you can do certain things that you think are just information based. You can just do it the way you were doing, but having that flexibility makes them slightly more open.
There is just one problem that I foresee. Let me take a concrete example. NCERT spends about one paragraph in the geography textbook or geography to teach heliocentric theory. One paragraph. All that the students have to know is that the sun, the earth revolves around the sun and spins, and the angle of spin is 23 degrees, whatever. This can be done in one paragraph. Do they learn anything other than this, repeating these sentences? No. If you want to help them develop a critical understanding of these statements, then what we have done in our own work is, and you were there in these courses, you can get them to construct a geocentric theory first. That takes time. Then you get them to construct a heliocentric theory for the same data. And the students realize that these two theories are equally good up to that point. And then they ask, then why do we say that the geocentric theory is wrong? And we wait for that, that anxiety, that disturbance to sink in. And then say, consider these, the reasons for preferring heliocentric theory to geocentric theory. What I just sketched will take about 10 hours. Now, will the school authorities allow 10 hours to teach one paragraph in the NCERT textbook? You could do the same thing for other things. You did, Rashmi, and you did combustion. Ask them to construct a theory of combustion using the concepts of, water, fire, and so on. And you found that the students are extremely interested. They learned a lot, but it takes time.
But
instead of saying
also,
that,
please finish.
Yeah. What we normally do is to say that air is a mixture, water is a compound, and gold is an element. Students don't understand what these words mean. But to help them understand what it means and to engage with it critically will take quite some time. So the question would be, will the conventional schools allow that amount of time?
Yes, Mo. And I'll tell you in reality how this can be done. It's a marketing problem. If we leave alone the government schools, the Navodaya Vidyalaya Samiti and the Kendriya Vidyalayas. I'm talking only about schools, right? The KVs, etc., which come under government purview. If we take the budget private schools, or for example, the DPSS or the Ryan International Schools, Delhi Public Schools, etc., there is one person who sits at the center of this web. If that person decides, authority trickles down.
Yeah.
It's just about convincing that one. Now, is that easy or not? How can it be done this way? How to convince that person, that's a different. But if that one person decides, then it will happen across the entire network.
Yeah, of course.
Any small budget private school, for example, if you take some, I don't know, Mahesh Public School that's running in Hyderabad, and you convince Mahesh will make it. It can be done if you target that one person. It's a marketing.
Well, we have tried knocking on several doors. So far, the only door that was open to us is Kaveri, Ganesh Nagar, Kaveri schools in Pune. So it's not easy to find people who are willing to take a non-conventional approach to education. Rashmi has raised a hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a few things. I feel like there is a lot more flexibility with respect to time in the younger grades, like the lower grades rather than the ones they get into ninth grade. So maybe it could also be we focus our efforts on that age group where, it's also because from the experiences shared by some of the students, for some of them at least, it becomes a way of thinking. Once they internalize the value system of inquiry, for many of them, it becomes a way of approaching new things. So suppose they have this way of approaching new things. It doesn't matter whether they approach everything like that or not, provided they are capable. So suppose in eighth grade, we talk about something, whatever, or seventh grade, in fact, if we talk about heliocentric theory and constructor theory, they will have obviously lesser ability than in ninth grade, maybe, but it would still be enough to develop the ability to construct a theory. And then, it becomes a part of them because there is one thing that they always take away, which is the nature of, claims in science, for example, and how they need to figure out what is the justification for a particular claim. And some of them who are interested, which is true of any topic, that some students are interested and some are not. But some of them who are interested do go and try to find the justifications, which itself is a pretty good aim. For if we achieve this in half the students, where, of this half, 10% are maybe able to construct theories on their own, but the 40% realize that, this is the standing of this scientific claim, and I should know how was it justified and what was discarded for this to come about. That is still better than what we have now. I think we should also consider as, okay, so if this is where we are now at 10 and we want to be at 100, let's think about getting to 30. And if we demonstrate this 30 in multiple places, it becomes, easier to share learnings or victories from this, to take it to other places. So that's one point. The second point I wanted to make is, sometimes when we, try to talk to people, we want to impress upon them how different inquiry oriented education really is from what we are currently doing. But from a, communication and marketing standpoint, it makes sense to go with the path of least difference. So, okay, this is where we are now, and to get to 10% better, these are the things that can be added in a language that they already appreciate. So in which case, it doesn't matter why they think we are doing it. What matters is it happens. So if we begin with, like doing things like this, maybe in a few schools, it would be useful. And this is for schools as well as parents, for them to, because many times when we tell people what they don't want to hear, what happens is they start to think of us as us saying you're stupid for all the decisions you've made so far. I feel like that's how people take any kind of criticism, which is that you had all the control to do this and yet you chose this path and you're stupid. This is what they hear. That's my impression. And nobody wants to hear that or feel that way. So we just need to be mindful of how they respond to what we are saying as well.
Yeah, I think I completely agree.
Just to add on to what Rashmi said, 2 points, quick points. I know we're at 17:03. One is in terms of actually selling it to them, the easiest way to subvert the system is from inside the system. So for that, we'll have to get into the system. Then that means, how do we get into the system? We give them some badges of honor, whether we're talking to these big, they say chest thumping and saber rattling. Oh, look what we're doing. It's just a matter of projecting it differently. And like Rashmi said, then we go in and we do what we want, and then the results will speak for themselves. It's just the selling it differently, for lack of better words.
Yeah. What I'm learning from this is, people should not send somebody like me to sell inquiry-oriented learning. It'll be dangerous because I will alienate everybody because I make them feel stupid. But if somebody who is gentle and would not threaten those who are in power, they should be able to go in and do this, achieve the better results, in fact. So I should perhaps remain somewhere in the background in creating materials and that kind of stuff, somewhere far away where the people who are in power do not see. And this has happened again and again in my life. People get threatened. Yeah. I think that's a good note. Unless there are questions or comments.
No, I had a question for Saransh. You see, given what he said, this has to do with the fact that, of course, it is, I think one need not be cynical, but then if there are sufficient number of people, professors at IITs and IISERs, who really think that the current system of getting a certain lot of people inside these IITs and IISERs is not good enough, right? Then why can't they write, or why can't they get together and change it, or at least ask people to change? I'm sure maybe the powers that be, that they have a different opinion. But if it is really the case that they are not happy with this current way of recruiting students for higher studies within the IITs and IISERs, why don't they write? I mean, I don't see campaigns against the current ways of recruiting. I mean, if it were really the case of, I'll just give you an example: the current NET exam, NET NET, UGC NET, right? So ever since 2012, it is now on it's the multiple choice based questions. Earlier, it used to, one had to write; it was descriptive. And the feeling has been amongst a lot of people that the current system basically allows you to just tick because there's no negative marking. The grading of the questions in the UGC NET is such that you cannot really say that they're very carefully graded. Okay, so not your enhanced MCQs. Those are not the kinds of questions we get, and which has led to people passing NET, at least people who would not be able to speak about their own subject for 15 minutes, despite being MAs and maybe even PhDs. So what is stopping these professors from writing against such shoddy ways of recruiting students? I think teachers should do something then.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. I will concede that point to you, that
Saransh, you're too far away from the mic. Can you come closer?
Oh, sorry.
Can
one
you come
second.
closer to the mic, please?
1 second. Is this better?
Yeah,
But you could
Okay,
come
okay.
closer.
even closer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, there's a problem with the system, I think. Okay, I'll try shouting a
This
little
is
higher.
great.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I think I will concede that point to you because it is possible that all of these professors are just paying lip service, and they are not actually bothered that much as it would like motivate them to group together and write, because they are powerful enough that they can band together and do something. And the fact that they are not might indicate that they are actually not that bothered by it as we are. And another reason for me saying that would be that they also reproduce a lot of the tests and the type of questions in their first year, second year, third year teaching, as we see in the JEE type questions as well. And I think the reasoning that I've seen from them is that they would want to have better teaching and they would want to have better assignments, but the students do not want it. So if they bring a new form of test that would test critical thinking, the students would resist it because the student wants marks and the students want to give tests that they are used to. So the professors then blame the students. These are the type of students that have been selected and they are used to a certain way of being tested, and I can't really do anything. So
Yeah, so there was a reason I asked you that question. I'm the only guy who teaches a batch of 19 students where 15 fail. So what happens is in the meetings, I am the one who gets pointed out for my incompetence.
Right.
Because everybody else seems to be teaching. Okay? Everybody else seems to be teaching so well that almost everybody, or more than 95% people pass.
Right.
And in my case, it's almost always 75 or 85% people flunking. So there must be something wrong with me. And I've been told that, look, I mean, in indirect terms, that either I change my ways or I change myself, because the institution certainly won't change.
Yeah.
Okay. So
there is another aspect.
I spent 5 years at IIT, so one of the IITs. So that was also the reason why I asked you that question.
Yeah.
Praveen, we knew for a long time that there's something wrong with you.
there is another aspect to it.
I know. Since 2006, sure.
If you force students to think, they'll give you very poor feedback.
Yes.
Your number will go from 10 to, let us say, 2, because students don't want to think. So anybody who tries to teach them something valuable will go down in their feedback. And of course, the administration will look at the number and say, oh, this guy is a bad teacher. So the best way of surviving in a university that uses feedback questions is to entertain them and give light courses.
Yeah.
This is a foolproof strategy. And I used to advise younger faculty at NUS when they came to consult me, saying, what do you want to do? Do you want to be a good teacher or do you want to be a popular teacher? These are two different goals. And everybody, wanted popularity. Good teaching, they said they don't care for. I also asked this question, do you want to increase your number of publications or do you want to do better research? They all said publications, I don't care about research. So these are sort of guaranteed ways of ensuring mediocrity.
And just to add on to that, I don't know much about the college system, but the school system, I do know a little bit. As of 24-25, there were about 1 crore teachers in India. Even if you multiply that by 2, that means there are 2 crore people in India depending on that livelihood. Now, will they look after their family? I mean, multiplied by 4, there are 4 crore people. 4 crore people who are depending on that 1 crore of people who are earning their livelihood. Now, will they say Inqilab Zindabad or will they care for their family?
Yeah.
I mean, that is the reality as far as I can see.
Yeah. Okay. Saransh is shedding tears, but let's not shed tears. Let's do something, whatever we can. Okay. See you guys.
See you.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Thank you all.